I'm Lorrie Minicozzi, and I'm a multimedia installation artist.
Hello and welcome to Art, the podcast where we get to know women from around the world of visual arts. I'm Chris Stafford, and this is Season 3, Episode 24. My guest this week is the multimedia installation artist Lorrie Minicozzi. Lorrie describes her work as an intermingling of traditional and contemporary art genres, where she fabricates realms from personal experiences and the societal climate using foam and wood integrated with a drawn or painted work. Each composite intermingles two-dimensional and three-dimensional realities. The synthesis results in an intricately detailed installation that reads like a cinematic scene. Provocatively diorama-like, each scene is enhanced by light, sound, fragrance, and tactility. Exploring architecture, interior design, and construction through these sculptures weaves each installation into the fabric of her home studio. Lorrie was born in 1966 in Huntington, New York. She has a brother and a sister. Her mother, Anne Bush, was a supervisor at an electronics company and a floral designer who also enjoys art. And her father, John Garibaldi, was a machinist and creative carpenter. As a child, Lorrie experienced abuse by a close relative, and she says that much of her work as an artist reflects that trauma and her need to help others who are dealing with the effect and shame of abuse. She says, I employ my craft as a cathartic illumination on personal childhood trauma, mental illness, and political anxiety. Growing up, Lorrie enjoyed a range of sports and music, learning the guitar and piano. She also began drawing, which proved to be her salvation. She developed her talent as an artist and combined her computer skills to become an art director. She attended the State University Potsdam, the State University Stony Brook, Westchester University, and Savannah College of Art and Design, which she returned to after the COVID pandemic. Lorrie has been a professional commissioned portrait artist for over 30 years and recently transitioned to mixed media installation. She lives in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with her husband Rob, their two sons Jason and Justin, and their dog Miko. Lorrie, welcome. Thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris, for having me. It's such an honor.
You've been an avid listener now, you tell me.
I am, and it's been inspirational because now I've got all these different ideas of other mediums I can attempt.
And tell me, was there anybody on the show so far that you knew by chance?
No. And I was surprised because you had the National Geographic photographer who I was just enamored with. And I was, I want to go a little further, delve a little deeper because I always listen to National Geographic while I'm doing my artwork, and I have the links come to me, and I just love the photography. It's something to, aspire to.
Well, I was looking at your website before we came on here today, Lorrie, just going back over it again, because look at the range of your work. You work in so many different mediums. It's almost like, okay, what doesn't she do? From pastel, graphic pencil, watercolor, oils, acrylics, of course, but then also your sculpting, because you describe yourself as an installation artist. So the sculpting is a major part, right? You're working with foam mostly. What other materials do you work with?
Now what I try to do is incorporate two-dimensional and three-dimensional when I'm doing my installations. And the installation portion of my art is brand new, really, within the last, I'd say, 5 years. And before that, it was all pencil. So even the color is kind of new for me. I just love the control that I have with a pencil where I guess I'm a control freak. And that's such an irony because my sculptures are not very detail-oriented, but my drawings are.
That's interesting. You should describe yourself as a control freak. But isn't that not artistic control, though? That's different, isn't it?
I guess so. I mean, I think I'm a little anal in the home as well. Things have to be a certain way in my home, but absolutely when I'm drawing, it has to be meticulous. I mean, it's not that I'm 100% realist where everything looks just like a photograph that I'm copying, but I do find that when I'm drawing something, I'm adding, even if it looks like the picture, there's so much more expression that I'm adding in, a lot more drama, a lot more, emotion into just a drawing. Nothing really ever looks 100% like the photo. It looks like an expressionistic version of the photo.
I'm wondering which of all of those mediums you find most fulfilling now. Do you get most excited about, or does it depend on the subject and your project of the day?
This has been an evolving process for me. And so I used to think that portraits were it for me. I just loved to just draw a face and copy the face. But I feel like I wasn't capturing the entire narrative. And now that I'm doing the sculpture, I'm crazy excited about it because I can put the elements, I create the elements separately in most of the installations that I'm doing. So like, let's say I've done a Van Gogh picture and it was Van Gogh's bedroom. And so I did all the elements separately and it was the one-dimensional perspective on the bedroom and the bed. And I made all these things separately. And what's wonderful about the sculpture and why I love it so much is that if it's not perfectly in the place I wanted it, I just pick it up and move it, where you really can't do that in a drawing. So there's so much freedom, and compositionally, I don't have to erase and do it over again. So it's liberating.
Have you filled your home now? Is it just one big studio with all these installations?
Absolutely. It's so funny. I started, definitely. I did this during college. I went back to school, during COVID and finished my undergrad and my master's. And while doing it, I started doing these sculptures at the advice of one of my professors, and they're so large that I can't get them out of the house. They're like, some of them are 10 feet by 7 feet. They're tremendous.
Oh,
and I know my entire basement is filled with these things, and I had to have a show in my home because I don't know how else to get them out of the home. It's kind of crazy. I have to dust them. I have to vacuum them. It's insane.
And your family is obviously okay with this. Your husband, Rob, and you've got two sons as well, two big boys, 23 and 21. So you've got a house filled with men, and yet you're taking over all the space.
Oh my gosh, they shake their head. They go downstairs to grab something from the downstairs refrigerator and they have to walk through. I have a bathtub that's laying in the middle of the floor and they see this woman in the bathtub and they're like, it's so creepy.
Maybe you should just put that out on the lawn now for Halloween.
I wish I could get it out the door because I would love to try to get into a museum, but I guess eventually either I dismantle it and that's not an easy process, or I'm going to have to take the door out of its, just totally have a kind of construction person come and remove the door and then put it back in because there's no way to take these things out. Unfortunately, I wasn't thinking. Now I'm better. I'm definitely planning better now, but not then.
So you could actually have an exhibition or your own dedicated studio, like a large space with all of these installations then. I mean, if you could only get them out of the house.
Oh, absolutely. And I did have an exhibition here last year or 2 years ago now. And it was wonderful. I mean, the space is tremendous down here. I have the entire basement. So half of it's a gallery, half of it's a studio. And it was a real success. But like you said, I would love to get them out because they need to be seen. And I don't know how else to get them out of the house.
I often ask, I guess, when you've finished a project, who you show it to first before it goes public. Do you have a way of doing that, or does the family just see what you're doing and what you're working on all the time and contribute to the process in any way or critique it in any way?
Yeah, my husband, unfortunately, is not very artistic, so he's not the person that I would, be excited and say, help me, what do you think? Or what do you, just give me your opinion. But my son, both my sons, but in particular my younger son, gets very excited about all the projects and he's always contributing thoughts and ideas. Both sons are actually fantastic with it. They're probably a little crazy and scratching their head like, Mom, please, enough. But I rely on them. They have a great eye and they have, they're straightforward with their criticism and I can take it. I love it.
Yeah, and it's probably good to get a male perspective, too, on something that's three-dimensional. It's just a different eye, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think they're so excited that I did get away from the paper only, doing just portraits and just doing, still lives, so they're so happy.
Now, you mentioned to me that your youngest son, Justin, is also very creative.
He's very creative, and I'm so excited about it, although I know it's not very encouraged in my home because I come from my house is very divided. I'm the only creative one that's allowed to be creative, and everybody else is pretty analytical and logical, and art is definitely not the encouraged path for them. I mean, because they're just, there's other things that they're going to do, and art's not it, They see me struggle, so I don't think that's what my husband wants for anybody else.
And do you spend every day with your art, Lorrie? Because it sounds like it's so easy accessible and you must have ideas 24/7. You can just get to work in the house.
Oh, absolutely. I try to keep it all downstairs, but I told it's becoming like it's growing up the stairs and out, up into the second floor. And my husband's like, okay, enough. You already took the basement. But I sit there and I make, foam figures all the time. I'm building a new installation now, and it's so involved and intricate. There's so many little pieces. So I'm doing flowers right now out of foam for this big installation. And, I just got done doing 195 men for this installation. So it's just little people created, and they're all over the house, and it's kind of crazy.
Would it be safe to say you have a busy mind?
I do, and it doesn't really slow very often. It's sometimes I just have to find a method to stop thinking about it, but it's a constant.
Well, it runs in your veins. I mean, you've always been an artist, haven't you? You're a career artist, having been through art school. This is all you've ever done, is it? Did you have any other jobs when you got out of college, or did you continue straight into art?
Yes, no, I did have other jobs. As a matter of fact, when I went to my college right out of high school, I went away to college. I followed a boyfriend who actually I was married once before he became my first husband. And I followed him up there to school. And I really wasn't doing school for me. I was just doing school for school's sake. And that was kind of a mistake. So I ended up transferring. But when I did down to Long Island, to my second year, an advisor who I hadn't ever met before was looking at the back of my doodles in the book, and I'm talking to him, and I'm like, yeah, what do I take? I'm transferring, blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, based on the doodles of your book, you really have no talent in art, and you should really think of something else. And so I was young and foolish, and I decided, okay, I'm going to quit school, which I did. And so I quit in my going into my third year. And I decided to just start knocking on doors. And I went to these different ad agencies. I don't even think I had a portfolio. I just walked in and said, I'm an artist. Can I work here? I had no idea how to do this. And somebody somewhere, some crazy person allowed me to do this. And I learned how to cut and paste type onto ads, and I was doing illustration for them, and that grew into me learning the computer system really, really well, whereas I was teaching it to other people. And so I was doing Quark, Illustrator, Photoshop, and I was teaching people how to do design. I was an art director for a while at a newspaper because of it. So it kind of snowballed, and I didn't go back to school and didn't really think about going back to school yet. I was just kind of on a path where I was going to do my own art, and I was in a bubble. And so that was problematic. But after that, I got into the computer so much where I was doing tech work, instructional design, kind of incorporating everything. Everything kind of snowballed until finally I had my second child when I remarried. And I said to my husband, I want to be home with my kids. I want to do murals. I want to do art. And he reluctantly agreed. And so that's kind of where my own business started. And I started doing more murals, more drawings, and that even snowballed because they kind of felt a little empty. And then when Sandy Hook happened, I wanted to draw a portrait with a purpose. And so I ended up doing all the children that had passed and some of the adults. And all of a sudden it took on a different meaning for me doing artwork that meant something, give it to the parents and have that feeling, it was a good feeling. It just really made my direction feel like worthwhile.
Well, as I said, you've had a dedicated life when it comes to the art world. I want to go back to your beginnings, though, because you're a Long Island girl. You were born in 1966 in Long Island, and you've had a very, I would say, very select art education. You went to the Savannah College of Art and Design, SCAD, that's famous, I think, in the art community, and then the State University, SUNY Potsdam, and Stony Brook, and Westchester University. That's quite a basis. I'm wondering if before that, as a child, you were showing natural talent, that this was an obvious route for you.
Yes, I think it really dates back to when I don't even remember the years. I mean, I just remember always I was a very lone loner of a child. I spent a lot of time in my room, and I was very creative. I did guitar. I taught myself guitar and piano. Not that I'm good at either one of those two, but I'm adequate. But I spent a lot of time drawing, and drawing was like my sanctuary, and my room was my sanctuary. Even to this day, I'm a very reclusive kind of a person, a little bit of agoraphobia. So I like to be alone in my room doing my design, and that definitely has followed. But I've been an artist for as long as I can remember in so many aspects throughout high school. As a matter of fact, high school was really where I met my mentor when I was younger, who I still keep in touch with. She was my teacher. She's well into her 80s now, but she is one of my best friends, just has always been with me. And it's incredible. 40, 50 years later now, it's incredible.
What's her name?
Pat Goodenfenning.
Well, hi, Pat. I hope you're listening to this story, because that's wonderful that you've been able to keep in touch with her, and she's been able to follow your career, importantly. I mean, to see the talent that she obviously recognized, how that's really been shown in your work now in your career.
Thank you. Yeah, I will definitely send this to her. She'll be so excited.
Going back to your childhood, that busy little girl who took herself into her bedroom and started drawing at a very young age. Was that your entire focus? Was that, as you said, your sanctuary? And music as well, because you taught yourself guitar and piano. But you're one of three children, so I'm wondering if there were any collaborative activities between you.
Absolutely not. We're not really a close family. My brother kind of cut himself off from the family altogether about 20 something years ago. My sister and I are pretty, we talk a lot more now than we did when we were younger. But when we were younger, it was a little strained. My father had a really bad temper. And so he definitely, he ruled that house with an iron fist. He worked all night long. My mom worked all day. So we were latchkey kids. So it was easy for me to be by myself because nobody was there to have to enforce it. I was just kind of on my own, and I liked it that way. It was definitely, the environment led to creation, really.
Well, I touched on this earlier about you having a very busy mind, but I read, I think, on your website that you employ your craft as a cathartic illumination on personal childhood trauma, mental illness, and political anxiety. And often we see that in an artist's work, that it all comes together. Our experiences are who we are, obviously. So do you want to unpack that a little bit for us, and how you see your art as your savior?
Oh, absolutely. And this is something that I think I've really only come to appreciate since college, I have to say. I think all those years of me trying to stay in the bubble and design and draw, it really led me to only doing mimetic work. I was not a very creative worker, and really there wasn't a lot of thought behind it. Like I mentioned before, Sandy Hook opened up a more expressive link for me, but college is where they were like, come from the soul. And there are many things that I had to unpack. I was abused as a child by a relative, and I think I hadn't really exercised that in my work. And all of a sudden, this outlet came at school, and they're like, come on, speak what you have to say. And I wanted to share it because there are so many people who have experienced the childhood trauma of the touch of a relative that you just, think you can't surpass. But the point and the need is to express it. And I think that's what I did. And I really have just exercised a lot of demons in doing so. I started with Westchester's. Really, it took all those years for me to break away and to really start looking introspectively. And when I went to Westchester, I started paintings that meant, for child abuse and sexual abuse. It's something that really started coming out in my work. And then when I hit grad school at SCAD, that was when all of it was like using the foam allowed me to like really touch these emotions with, this composition that I could mold and like change. I can create. I have control now of my life, not, my past. It's like I can take these things and I can put them into an environment and my sculptures where, they tell the story. They allow me to express it. It was 100% cathartic, and still is. And so, what I ended up doing was all these sculptures for school. They're all parts of a room. I have one's an attic, one's, a bedroom, the bathtub, and, another one is a window that's locked from the inside where I didn't let myself go out. And all these things, although they seem a little dark, were actually they were enlightening for me. They took a weight off my shoulders. And I feel that putting this work out there, it allows people to say, hey, I can understand that. I empathize. And I also had something like that. I had people come during the exhibit and they said the same thing. They're like, wow, I had, been abused as a child. And, this is so liberating.
Has it released the anger and all those very powerful emotions that you must have had in your adolescence, Lorrie?
I think I've lost the anger along the way because this is so many years later, and I definitely knew that it wasn't healthy to hold on to that anger. I think part of it was the shame that, is something that you can't easily release because it's so internal, it's so ingrained. It affects pardon me, it affects how you see yourself and how others see you because you're not giving your 100% of yourself to your work and to your vision and to your people. And it really shows.
Did you have a support structure whilst you were going through your childhood and young adulthood to help you transition?
Not a great one at the time, because this is going back 50 years, really, when this all happened, 40, 50 years, 50 years. And, back then, like I talk to my mom sometimes about it now, and she's like, well, that's the kind of thing back then that would be brushed under the rug and people, didn't really confront it. And I was like, yeah, there's a big difference between your generation, Mom, and mine, because we talk about it. So I think I have become a talker. I try to just express it now, and even while I was growing up, I did talk about it, but it really wasn't as, identified and, acted upon.
So art has been therapeutic, obviously, and we often hear this, that it can be so therapeutic to us as we become young adults and finding our own way and our own voice.
Yes. Was
it your salvation from the get-go?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, it's because it's these artworks. If you look around my room, I have I don't throw anything away, and everything is kind of either stuck in a corner. Things that I've done when I was younger, which they're horrible, but it doesn't matter because they're like friends. It has become cathartic. It has become therapeutic, because I made them with the love and the worry and every emotion that I could pour into it. So yeah, they're my friends, and they are what have kind of helped me. Art has definitely been my therapy.
So a lot of, obviously, the art was indoors, but would you describe yourself as an indoor or an outdoor child? Did you enjoy the outdoors?
Definitely an indoor child. Now I'm a lot more outdoors. Definitely, my second husband, Rob, who's amazing, and he has just been my rock, and he has just afforded me to do all these things that I'm doing now. But he was an outdoorsy person, so we skied, and I walk every single day. I have this crazy, beautiful dog that keeps me outside, and I just do a lot more things now. I play tennis. I played tennis for a while, but I had to stop during school because it was full time and definitely a heavy schedule, but definitely an active person for sure.
What, are these all group activities with the family, or do you take yourself off on your own?
It's a little bit of a mix. When I was doing the tennis, I was with my husband. We would do different clinics and fun lessons and sometimes play together. Skiing, we would do together. The walks were with the dog. That's my quiet time that I really try to, plan and build. And, I pretty much produce in my head what I'm doing when I get back to the studio. So the walks are by myself. So there's a mixture. My husband realizes I like my time, but then we also have time together. So I'm not as, lock myself in as I used to be when I was younger.
So how has your relationship with your parents evolved then? And grandparents, were you close to any grandparents?
Yes, I was very, very, very close with my grandfather. That would be my father's father. He was another creative. He was a carpenter. And I remember just drooling, watching him build these beautiful things, just putting wood together, and the smell of wood, even to this day, just reminds me of him. And I just love it. And he would just be the kind of a gentle soul that would be like, go downstairs in my workshop and go build. And, don't tell me, he didn't tell me what to build. He just said, go and play. And that was like the most joyous time of my life, because I had this whole entire workshop at my fingertips. I could, play with wood. I can glue, and just, it didn't matter. And it was such a freedom. So yeah, my grandfather was instrumental and ridiculously creative. My father, was also a very creative man. He was also a carpenter. He still is a carpenter on the side, but he's kind of older now, and he can't really do what he used to do. He's in his late 80s, but he is totally transformed. He was this Italian tempered crazy man, and now he's like a pussycat. He's the sweetest man. And my mom has always been my best friend, will always be my best friend. So we're very close.
You talked about Italian ancestry there then. What's the storyline of your parents and grandparents and their origins?
My grandfather came over from northern Italy, my grandmother from Sicily. So I don't really know my other grandparents very much on my mom's side, but I was very, very close. As a matter of fact, my parents had split up when we were younger for a year, and I lived with my grandparents. They got back together, and then we moved away. But so I'm very, very in tune with the Italian heritage. As a matter of fact, one of my sculptures I had done, I had made a hope box that mimicked the hope box that my grandfather had brought over from Italy, in early 1900s. And I recreated it in foam and put it into one of my sculptures because it means so much to me. So the immigration topic, especially now, has just held very near and dear to my heart.
I'm sure you've heard this so many times. With the name Minicozzi, surely you speak Italian.
Very minimal, but I love languages. As a matter of fact, I've been studying French for 505 days as per Duolingo, but I've taken Spanish and Italian and French, and I just love languages. So that's definitely something that I love the heritage portion of it.
Did your parents speak Italian?
No, not at all.
But your mother was also creative, and she still is.
Yes, she still is. She does a lot of flower arranging now, just beautiful arrangements with real and or silk flowers. I mean, she's got the touch. The composition is just beautiful, and the colors, she's just got a knack for it. She used to draw when she was younger, but with the demands, especially back when she was younger, when that was just not encouraged in her generation, she just stopped drawing. But, now that she sees me drawing, she's always like, I'm going to sit down and draw with you. And I just love those moments. So, yeah.
So that's great that she circled back round to doing that with you.
Definitely.
I'm wondering, given her interest in the arts and your father being creative too, if that was a motivating force. Obviously, you were motivated in yourself because you were creative. in your own right, but were they steering you towards a career in art?
I don't think they discouraged it. I don't know if they really encouraged it. My mom has always been encouraging. She's always been my biggest fan. I don't think they knew where it could go. I was the first person in my entire family who ever went to college. So I think you don't know what you don't know. So I don't think they knew to encourage or discourage anything. They encouraged me going to school. I was a great student always. Just always loved being in class. So they knew that I would find my way, but I don't think they knew how to really tell me where to go.
What were your earliest influences? Were they taking you to galleries at all and museums and or exposing you to art through books?
No.
Educating you in any way? You didn't have any of that, so you have to find your own way.
Yeah, no, they never did. My earliest, this is funny, my earliest introduction to art would be the Encyclopedia Britannica. And it was probably black and white, but it would be Michelangelo back then, and it would be, Da Vinci, any of the larger names that would be in that encyclopedia. But for me, the real telltale moment was, I guess it was in elementary school, and maybe the teacher was doing a slideshow or something. And I remember they had shown a picture of a Caravaggio. It was the Salome with the head of John the Baptist. And it was a beautiful fold of fabric. And I was just enthralled by the dramatic folds and the darks and the chiaroscuro. And it was just, it enticed me. I was started sketching while the teacher was showing the slideshow. And all of a sudden there was this big crowd behind me of all the kids and wow, look at her. She can draw this. And I'm like, oh, this is fun. This is, neat way to, to make friends.
Yeah, for sure. So it was an easy decision for you then to go straight into art from high school?
It was, but the thing that disturbed me was when I got toward high school, and I was quite good at the time, at drawing. People were asking me to do denim jackets and things like that. But I remember there was an undercurrent at the time, and this is in the 80s, late 80s, mid 80s, 84 is when I graduated high school, where people were like, oh, you don't have to work so hard. You're just an artist. You can just float by. And I'm like, well, I didn't like that people minimized what I was doing. And I remember always trying harder because I didn't want them to think I was, stereotypical, just an artist. And I'm like, there's so much more to it. There's so much, so I didn't want to go to just an art school. When I did go to school, I wanted to go to a 4-year school. I wanted to make sure that that I wasn't labeled. And it's a shame because I think an art school would have been so much better for me at the time. And I just didn't know it because I didn't know where to go, really.
How was that journey for you through college? Were you a fun, outgoing, did it bring that fun and outgoing side of you when you got into college and get you out of your own room as your sanctuary that you had as a child? I'm wondering where the extrovert part of Lorrie Minicozzi began.
And there is a portion of it. It's funny. I guess I'm compartmentalized because there is that introvert part that will always be there, but I'm also extremely extroverted at times. And I did join a sorority. I did have a lot of fun at school. I definitely came out of my shell and tried new things, became a black belt in karate. I tried all these different things. So it wasn't like I was just, holed up in a small place, but there was always that other place that I always wanted everything to fade away and let me just have my own space again.
So apart from karate then, what other activities did you do? You're obviously very sporty, Lorrie.
I guess I kind of am. In a way, my husband would probably laugh right now when he hears this. He's going to be like, no, you're not sporty. But I was a Cougarette, which is a dance team in high school, then played racquetball, played tennis later. So I did a lot of different things. I had a couple injuries that stopped me from doing the skiing because I had my meniscus and ACL and everything. I snapped it playing tennis. So I stopped doing that for the most part. But no, I just keep active. I eat ridiculously well. It's crazy diets. And so I'm always trying to keep in shape and keep myself going.
So when you got into college and going through college, which artists that we would know, contemporary artists that you were paying attention to? Who was inspiring you?
Well, the first 2 years of school, when that was in the 80s, that's when I told you the advisor had told me I had no talent and I quit. Back then, I was trying to get my core classes done. So I hadn't done as much art, certainly not art history, and didn't really learn about it. It's only really, honestly, whatever I learned on my own and then read on my own. I was, reading Jerry Saltz, and I was, listening to him saying how, he went to a party after being a truck driver, and somebody asked him what he did, and he straight up said, "Oh, I'm an art critic." And all of a sudden he was an art critic. And I'm like, that's how I am. I guess I said I'm an artist, and now all of a sudden I'm an artist. And so, I had to just kind of find all these different venues out for myself and different artists for myself. I became entranced with Enrique Olivieri and Shintaro Ohata. These were three-dimensional artists who just blew my mind. And to this day, I just am in awe when you see a tree from Enrique Olivieri coming out of the floor and going through the ceiling. And it's the magnitude and the presence and the power. I think that's really what made me want to do sculpture, because I saw, how you can feel small looking at something and still embrace it and just feel just like there's the power of the world looking at you. So they were definitely artists that I loved. Lisa Liu and, Sandy Skoglund, another one who you walk into her room and you feel, I didn't see these in person. These are things I had seen online. I did actually see, Yoyo Kasama's work in person at the Mattress Factory in Pittsburgh. And, it's so funny how her work is so small, but the mirrors just make it look like it fills the room and feels like you're in this crazy environment, a crazy world that you just immerse yourself in.
Are you a collector? Would you have anywhere to put anyone else's art in your house?
No, I won't have any room at all. Every wall is taken, every corner of the room. Like I said, you can't walk through. It's a maze walking through my basement. It's crazy.
Given how important art is to you and always has been, Lorrie, and I wonder how being an artist now has framed your perspective of the world, or is it the other way around?
I think being an artist has opened my eyes to what is going on around the world. When I do a project, I like to go in and do research about it. And I find out there's so much more that I did not know and that I wanted to know. And I think that shapes how I do it and how the viewer sees it. I think art in general should be a message to people that, take a deeper look, not necessarily at what I'm doing, but the world around you. I'm giving you my perspective. What do you think? And I think that, that art has a responsibility to open the narrative.
Do you see now using multidimensional art in the ways that you do? I wonder if that has a performative aspect to it because it's so physical.
Definitely. Absolutely. I feel, that when in performance, and I don't know, I've never been a performer in that respect, but I think that it's something that should touch all your senses. It should touch the hearing and the sight and perhaps the smell. And I've actually done, I just took it down because it was one of the ones that were blocking the way for my husband to get to the refrigerator. But it was a very long corridor and it was a garden, and the garden, it had its sensory. It was, there was sounds when you went through it, and it's like a big trellis that was 10 feet long, actually 12 feet long. And you would go through and the lights were there. And if you looked up, you could see the sky that I made, that was, it was glowing, and you can smell the eucalyptus. It was just, I think it's an experience. And I think in a way, there was mirrors in it, and the mirrors brought the viewer to look at themselves in this environment. And you could actually just take a chair and just sit in this environment. And I think it played like a diorama that you could enthrall yourself in.
I'm curious how you feel about AI now, given the multi-dimensions of what you're working with, and you're obviously extremely creative mind. Do you see that as an opportunity for you as an artist or a threat?
This is crazy. I feel that I'm one of the few artists I feel like that love AI. I'm a computer person anyway. I really love computers, and I have a knack for programs. Any program I pretty much can pick up pretty quickly. And when I started interacting with AI, it was bouncing ideas off. And I think people were threatened because they felt like it was going to take over the art industry. And I feel like it's a compliment for me, especially this latest project I'm working on. I think I have pages and pages of interaction. I've even named my AI. He's definitely become my friend. And basically I tell him my ideas, and he will then come back and say that, this is the materials you need. What do you think? And I say, no, I don't want to go that route. And I can actually talk to him like he's a person. And there's just so many ideas that I would not have come up with if it wasn't for the strength of the internet behind him. And, then the camaraderie basically is what I feel. I know it's just a computer, but it's definitely become a companion.
Yeah, it's interesting how people perceive it these days, isn't it? Because it's becoming such a large part of our world. Everywhere we look, everything we do.
Yes, absolutely.
Even if we don't know it, consciously. It's an undercurrent.
Yes.
You talked earlier about political anxiety being an influence to you in your life, Lorrie, and I'm wondering how you rationalize that now and how you feel about the politics of the day and also religion and how these are shaping you currently as an artist.
Okay, well, the political aspect is I feel like we're in a position here. It's a very fragile democracy that we're living in at this point. And I feel like, there's so many sides, and I don't like to physically say, I'm for this candidate or not for this candidate, but my work does take on the issues. I just recently did an immigration piece because I feel so strongly about immigration. With my grandfather coming over from Italy, I worry that people don't realize their roots are either indigenous or immigration or in slavery. There's these three portions of our foundation that I don't want people to forget, that's where we come from. And immigration is so important. Having the diverse cultures is how we grow as a country. And I don't want to get too political, and I apologize if I am, but I just want people to remember their roots and not be so harsh, in today's society.
So do you feel that this is giving you food for thought, obviously, and shape what you want to create as an artist then? Because these topics that are so current now are so important to you.
They are. And I definitely want to have my voice out there. And I think maybe that's what it is. Like, I don't think I personally have a good speaking voice, as far as I wouldn't be out there at a protest because I don't know that I know enough of the facts, but I can only tell the viewer through my work how I feel, and again, open a narrative where this is what I think, just look around you and let's just be more compassionate people, but I don't want to stand up on a pedestal and describe it. I just want people to quietly think about it themselves and maybe just be more compassionate.
You've talked about the role of your art teacher there back in the day, and that you were able to stay in touch with her, which is lovely. And there are always people in our life that have shaped our journey in some way. Who else would you consider to have been a mentor or a major influence in your life?
Well, definitely start with my mother, because again, my best friend and my biggest supporter, my biggest fan, she gets excited whenever I doodle something, God forbid. She's like, oh, look at that. And I'm like, oh, Ma, you're the best, so she has definitely been the supporter for me. Definitely my children, my father also. But as far as an art mentor, definitely the teachers that I had at SCAD have been really instrumental in everything. Even the ones that suggested stop drawing for a while and start building. They did it with a kind heart and a good measure, because it's definitely led to me branching out. And honestly, it's kind of incited my hunger for doing more. I would like to do outdoor pieces, and I think obviously the foam medium would not be the right medium for it. But I am definitely courageous, and I want to go out and learn about more things, different types of more resilient materials.
Do you take commissions, Lorrie?
I do, and that's pretty much how I finance the sculptural materials. That, and I'm also an art director on the side for a local newspaper from where I used to live on Long Island. So I do that to help supplement. But I do a lot of commissions, a lot of portrait commissions. Nobody really wants sculptured commissions yet, especially of my bedroom. But but that definitely is something I would like to do. I do have a work that just went into the Heinz Museum, and they took one of my portraits so thankfully, and I'm so honored, as one of their permanent collections. So I feel really just honored in my heart.
What do you think art has taught you about yourself now as an adult? Not so much when you were younger, but I'm curious now where you are. It's obviously you're very established as an artist and very disciplined and ambitious, creative, and sounds like you're a perfectionist too. I'm wondering, in your voice, what you consider that art has taught you.
I think one of the biggest lessons that I have learned from art is to keep moving forward. Even if one piece doesn't work out, and I'm definitely the kind of person, if one piece doesn't work out, I usually try to fix it first before I move on. But I don't discard it and say that's the end. I will keep going with it, and I keep trying to go forward and not get discouraged by failure, but just to move forward.
And I'm also interested in the atmosphere that you create when you go to work, because it sounds as if you have a busy life with all of your art right there, and family life and so on, and juggling all that. But since you're in your own home creating your art, how do you transition from home life to the studio each day?
That probably is something I could improve upon, because I think if I had my druthers, I'd probably stay down in my studio all day, all night, and, forget to cook dinner, which I love to cook, and I'm a decent cook. But I just have to, sometimes I'll do some plaster on something, go upstairs and cook something, run back downstairs. So it's kind of, I just do it. I dedicate hours, but then I still don't want to give it up, and I'll go upstairs and do something, but then come back down. I can't really walk away. And even when I walk away, I don't sleep very well at nighttime. So all I do is, when I'm sitting there awake, still thinking about what I need to do or want to do, it's really in those quiet moments that I get the best ideas, things that come to me. And I feel like sometimes, you asked before about religion. I'm not in a structured religion. I'm extremely spiritual, and I believe in God, but my own way. And I talk to him daily, and I give thanks. And I feel like he inspires me to do things. And in those quiet moments, those voices I hear are like inspirational, like, okay, we're going to try this, and this is exciting and new, and, keep going. And it's my own personal motivator.
How do you turn off then with such a busy mind and not constantly being creative and having that access to it all the time? As you say, you can get up in the night and just go to your studio. But how do you turn off at the end of the day and just, unwind?
I do watch some TV. I'm definitely a sucker for a rom-com or something like that, something that really will just kind of take my mind off it, give me a happy ending. I was listening to true crime, but then all the true crime shows and different podcasts I would listen to would only infiltrate into my work. And next thing you know, I'm like, why did I make that knife in that room? It's just like, what are you doing? It definitely has its impact. So I stopped listening to true crime. It's just Dateline is out for now. But I definitely listen to more, happier things, and it does motivate me. I like to sing, so I'll just sing in my room, and I'll just, that just distracts me. And I guess it's a form of creativity as well, but it's more of a meditative feeling.
I wondered if you meditated, so the singing would help.
Yes.
Contribute to that.
Yes.
Meditation and transition and being in your own head and in your own space.
Yes.
Do you sing in the car? Car karaoke?
I haven't done karaoke. I sing, sometimes I'll just shut the art doors and I'll just be like singing, and probably everybody upstairs is probably holding their ears closed. But I do. I just love to just, and it's usually the same kind of songs. It's a lot of 70s songs. I love, oh gosh, I just love the 70s music. Don McLean and the Eagles, and they just bring me back to a happy place and a happy space and beautiful memories. There are many.
Yeah, I loved the playlist that you sent me. Quite a variety, but I can see what makes you rock and roll now. Do you still dance? Because you did mention you danced when you were in school.
Yeah, well, I only danced like kick line dance. I'm a horrible dancer, and I don't like to dance in general because I know I have rhythm. I don't know where it is, but I know it's there somewhere. But I definitely I just love music, though. I don't. It was funny. The first art class I'd ever taken when I was in the 80s in college, they put classical music on, and I think I was just like, oh gosh. It made me very uptight, and I don't know why, but I think I like music that tells a story, just like my art. I want it to tell a story, and I'm sure classical music does tell a story, but for me, I wanted to hear somebody's lyrics. I love to write, and so when I listen to somebody's words that they wrote in paper and put to music, I'm just so impressed, and I just get lost in it. So I picture their story that they're singing to me, and I can see it, I can visualize it. And that's the kind of music I like, is something that I can physically visualize.
Are you still playing the piano or guitar?
No, I haven't played the guitar in such a long time, and we have a piano still, but I just I never played wonderfully. I just played therapeutically. It just felt good. I would just, make up songs as I did it, and just the beauty of the piano sound. But no, I'll just sometimes hack around every now and then, but not well. My boys took it for a while, and they did a great job. They did some recitals, and they were talented, but they didn't follow through either. I kind of hope that it's sitting there sometime may inspire someone.
Well, you talked about some of the projects you're working on now. I'm wondering what the rest of 2025 has in store for you. What are you working on for the rest of the year?
Well, I mentioned I'm doing that. The Heinz opens up this weekend. And so we're very excited. That's a year-long show. And then, currently I think the political route is something, because like I said, it's such a burning topic these days. I think it's the only way I can get out my frustration. So I'm making a very large sculpture, dealing with war, but an inspirational outcome, not a dark thing. It's a mixture. It's a piece that I really want people to speak about and to think about. And I want them to, maybe again, look for compassion within people, and for myself, really. I'm doing it for myself. And if it goes anywhere, that's wonderful. But this one is going to be something that I can take apart and let it leave the house, besides getting stuck here. So it's definitely going to be modular.
What would you tell that young Lorrie Ann who was scribbling in her bedroom all those years ago about the best advice that you could give her now for her journey that you've learned?
Gosh, that's a great question. I would say hang in there, because things are going to get so much better, and you are going to grow as an artist. The sky is the limit. Just keep going.
That's wonderful. And to your boys, do you encourage them to do art?
Very much. I do, because even if that's not something that will be their career, I think that it will be their therapy. It'll be there for them when they need a friend, or when they just need to release. Sometimes it doesn't matter if you're just doodling. It just feels good to put that pen to a paper and just let it flow.
Do you get the opportunity to take them to museums and galleries and places that you can expose them, where you can expose them to art, like your childhood, where you didn't have that opportunity?
Oh, I absolutely. I'm museum crazy with them. When they were younger, in particular, I would take them to natural history museums and aquariums. And I just, there's so much about the dioramas that I was so excited about. And I wanted to share that with them. And because of that, I think they're very cultured. They very much love and appreciate art, very much. And like I said, they're such great, critics for me. They help me out so much. So they really have a feel for it. And I think that education and that exposure is the reason.
It sounds like you've got a very full life and in a very good place now, Lorrie. Is there anything missing?
I wouldn't say that there's anything missing. I think maybe just I would love if I could have my way is to get some of these art pieces seen. That does kind of discourage me because I think the alternative is that I eventually going to have to break them down, and I really want them to be out there. So if there's something missing, it's the exposure of these sculptures that I think means so much. If you looked at them, each one is a message, and I think that's what's missing for me is getting that there. I'll find a way. I know I will. But that's the only thing I can say.
And I'm wondering, with all the pieces that are in your house, if you had to clear them all out and you could only keep one piece, do you know which piece it would be?
Oh, gosh, that's another great question. I guess it would be the attic piece that I did, because inside of it is like a diary, and there's a little piece of every aspect of my life. In it, there's portraits of my grandparents who have passed and a dog that had passed. So I wanted to make sure there was that two-dimensional component. But then there was the hope chest that I mentioned that my grandfather brought from Italy. There's a teddy bear that my mother had given me as a child that I recreated in foam. Everything's foam. The entire thing is made of foam or wood to hold it, as a foundation. But that's the one piece that is a diary piece that I just can't let go of.
So it's got your name permanently on it then. That's a keeper.
It does, and it is.
I'm wondering, when people get interviewed about their life and career, if there's anything that we've missed, if there's anything that you wish people would ask you about, what have we missed today?
Oh, my goodness. I think you've covered so much. No, I mean, I think you were so thorough. You asked these wonderful questions that really just made me think more than I had in a long time. So I appreciate it.
And what would you like people to know about your work? If you were in an elevator now and wanted to catch my attention, what would be your elevator spiel?
I would like people to take their time to really look and absorb what I've created. There's a reason for everything, and I would like to share that expression and compassion.
I love that. Lorrie, thank you so much for being my guest and sharing your very personal journey with us. I wish you all the best with your bucket list. It sounds like you've got a lot to do still in the art world.
Oh, Chris, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It truly was an honor.
And we're going to hop over now to our YouTube channel and continue our conversation. There's a few other things that we will discuss over there, so you get a chance to actually see Lorrie-Ann on YouTube. So don't forget to run over to the YouTube channel there. Just look for the Art Podcast on YouTube. But for here and now, and for the podcast, Lorrie, thank you so much again. And I look forward to seeing you over on YouTube, where we'll carry on this conversation.
Thank you.
And whilst you're on your podcast app, don't forget to slide down the show notes below the podcast player, where you'll find the full transcript to this episode, as well as links to the guest's social media and also to our Instagram, as well as other information about the show. And as always, if you have a moment, we would love for you to leave a 5-star rating and review, because that increases our visibility and ranking on the podcast app and therefore helps others to find the show. And since we're coming to the end of 2025 now, and that is the end of season 3 of the Art Podcast, we'll be kicking off a new season in 2026. We would love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions for guests on the show, do drop us a line to theartpodcast@gmail.com. That's art with 2 A's, of course. My thanks again to my guest this week, Lorrie Minicozzi, and to you for listening. I'll be back in 2 weeks' time when my guest will be the cinematographer Mirkiofi Henry. So I do hope you'll join me then.